Education meeting is now called to order. If you choose, please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Thank you.
Will you please stand as we pledge allegiance. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everyone for coming today. As you can see, we have a jam-packed agenda, so we're going to try our best to navigate through it as timely as possible. Did want to say one thing. As you notice, Steve and Mr. Presley missed a few days. He has 3 kids. 2 have graduated our system, and 1 is in high school. And he spent a couple weeks in the mountains hiking with his last son, spending some quality time with his son. So, if you want to comment on that, Mr. Presley.
I made it. Thank you. It was quite a trip. It was one of the Philmont experiences through the Boy Scouts. I'm sure a lot of you have been there or known people who have. We took 24 out of Troop 21 in Bluff Park, kids and parents, and there were 3 different treks. Our trek was a 12-day, 93-mile journey that carried us to the summit of Mount Baldy at 12,447 feet. 38 degrees and a 20-mile-an-hour wind when we got up there, and we were soaking wet. So we did the old Chevy chase at the Grand Canyon and went, let's go. And down we went. So, but thank you for letting me be gone. It was quite a trip. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
You're welcome. We have before us the agenda for today's board meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, agenda has been adopted. Now we have our recognition piece. Dr. Ron Dotson.
Recognitions?
Yes.
We do have a few here to talk about tonight. Very first, Mr. Don Hewlett, would you please come forward? Don has a couple of items here on the agenda tonight, and this year Hoover High School had 2 9th grade English classes work collaboratively with South Korean classes on common curriculum activities, followed by a week-long exchange of Korean students and a teacher at Hoover High School. I know that was something you worked on planning all through last year. And he was able to share the benefits of this exchange with UNESCO, the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, a Skype presentation to educators from around the world about the benefits gained from this experience. So I want to recognize you for that, Mr. Hewlin, and stay here. Because Mr. Hewlin, along with some of his compatriots, Ms. Hogan, if you would come forward, and Mr. Phillips, and is Cameron here? Okay. If you come on with him. All 3 of these individuals, plus another one of our technology coaches, Cameron McKinley, presented at ISTE, the International, I always forget what that stands for. Society for Technology Education. But this is the largest conference held every year with regard to technology and education, and we've had a presence at that conference for the last several years. I think this was the 3rd year Hoover High's presented in there. Both Mr. Hewlin and Ms. Hogan presented on several topics, including twittering about your school story and all of the efforts with the Engaged Learning Initiative and the great work done, particularly at Hoover High School, in pushing that forward with our kids. And I just want to recognize you guys for the role you're leading in leading that for our kids and making those opportunities available. So thank you very much. Mr. Phillips, in addition, right before or right after ISTE, I know you were flying all over the country, but at that same point in time, you were attending the 2015 Chief Information Officer Summit, which is an invitation-only event, where you were invited to sit at a table to talk about technology education in schools across the entire United States. So your voice and experience representing Hoover City Schools having an impact on everyone here. We're very proud to have you as our face representing us in all of those things. Thank you, Ronnie. Also representing our district at the national level recently, Dr. Barbara Mayer. I know you're here. You're here all the time. Dr. Mayer represented Alabama, the state of Alabama, on the National Council of Exceptional Children for the Council of Administrators of Special Education Legislative Leadership Summit. In this activity, she met, this was in Washington, D.C., she met with senators and congressmen to discuss the reauthorization of the Education ESEA Act and that No Child Left Behind Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So very, very big ideas. We're glad that your voice was there to help guide our lawmakers. We can only hope they listened to your wise counsel. Thank you, Dr. Mayer.
Dr. Johnson, I
Yes,
didn't
ma'am.
know that Barbara was getting this award, but for someone that works 18 to 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, whatever award she got, she deserved.
Amen.
Such an asset for us.
Very much so. Very much so. I learned a long time ago not to try to outwork Barbara Mayer. Dr. Tamala Maddox, saw you come in. Come on in. We're proud of Dr. Maddox. She was recently selected to lead the Alabama Middle School Principals Association on behalf of the Council of Leaders of Alabama Schools. So as a president this year for the Middle School Principals Conference, just wanted to give you that recognition. Thank you very much. And Mr. Gene Grosso, our newly minted principal with Spain Park High School. As most of you know, recently Spain Park High School was listed as one of the top outstanding schools in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. So I wanted to recognize that, and on behalf of Spain Park High School, as the face of Spain Park High School, I want to recognize Spain Park with a great honor. Thank you. And finally, Ms. Green's going to present the next.
Thank you. Most of you know him as the voice of Hoover City Schools, Mr. Jason Gaston. Could you come up here and let's brag on you a little bit? I'm not sure who's going to take his picture, since he's not going to take the other pictures, but Ms. Littlejohn will take care of that for us. Jason was recently appointed as the Southeast Regional Vice President to the, I'm going to get it right, National School Public Relations Association Board of Directors at this past summer's, the 2015 annual seminar. This is a wonderful organization that promotes professional development to advance the practice of communications in schools communications, and serves districts in the U.S. and in Canada. So it's quite a prestigious group, and it's certainly a prestigious honor for you and for our school system as we ride the coattails of your glory. He will be acting as a liaison between the national organization and the state organizations, and make sure I have all the states correct: Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And the rumor is that he gets to take one person with him on vacation to visit Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and I think it's going to be me. Not sure about that one, but we'll see. But no, seriously, I know you know as well as I do, Jason Gaston just constantly works to promote Hoover City Schools. He is at your schools taking pictures. He is talking to parents. Everyone knows his voice. When they hear that voice, they think, ooh, what's up? School's out, school's in, late start, early dismissal, or just general information. So you make us look good, and we appreciate that, and we're so pleased that you have been recognized on this level. Thank you.
Board members, I'm so delighted with all of that success, and these folks make Hoover Hoover, right? So proud of all those individuals. Thank you all.
Now we will move to our public participation piece. As we talked about last board meeting, that for things outside of the agenda, and so we'll know D through H, we will interject public comment if you have any public comment. G through H on the action items. So public participation at this time. Yes, is this near? Narrow, okay.
Hi, I'm Amanda Nur. I am the Executive Director of the Hope for Autumn Foundation, which is a Hoover-based foundation. Our mission is threefold. First, we raise money for families that are battling childhood cancer in the state of Alabama. We've paid for rent, for utilities, for mortgages, for medical bills to families that are battling cancer. We also fund the Alabama Center for Childhood Cancer and Blood Disorders Developmental Therapeutics Program. It's a cutting-edge research and treatment program right here at Children's of Alabama that seeks new and innovative treatments for children whose cancers are uncurable. It provides treatments that are not widely available, develops innovative and less toxic treatments, and it most importantly gives hope to children whose cancers are not curable. Finally, and the reason I'm here is our foundation is developing a program to increase community awareness of childhood cancer, because awareness leads to funding and funding leads to cures, we believe. The month of September is National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. We feel strongly that since 1 out of 300 children are diagnosed with cancer before the age of 18, in fact, my own daughter is a 5-year cancer survivor. She is going to be a 7th grader at Bumpus, so Dr. Maddox, keep an eye on that one. We propose we feel that our school system, that awareness in our school system is very important. Currently, October is saturated with awareness. September, nobody seems to even know that September is Childhood Cancer Awareness. We proposed a district-wide Give Hope Day during one day during the school year, during the month of September, possibly September 23rd. Our foundation would provide kits to each school in the Hoover City School District that would contain gold bows, gold ribbon temporary tattoos, bracelets, as well as a list of suggestions that these schools could run their own programs, such as Wear Gold That Day or posters with awareness facts. But we're not asking for any funding. Our foundation would sponsor all the funding and hopefully have some local businesses around town sponsor some of these kits as well. Childhood cancer is so grossly underfunded and an overlooked disease, even though it is the leading cause of death, disease-related death in children and adolescents. And as far as I know, I did as much research on this as possible. Hoover City Schools could show its dedication to its children and be the first district in the state of Alabama to officially dedicate a day to childhood cancer awareness. Thank you for your consideration. I know that this, we're a little bit late in the game. It's mid-August or beginning of August already. We'd like this towards the end of September to have this day. Basically, we would need your blessing and we would take it from there. We would promote it. We would provide the kits, things like that. So I appreciate your time. I also gave you a letter just to outline everything we need and my contact information. So thank you.
Any additional public participation? Something quick, and I won't labor on this. We had a fantastic Saturday with the Dad Brigade. Close to, I want to say, 400 men and students came to our 10 elementary schools and did a fantastic job. Some part of me did not know it would be that large, but I cannot take all of the credit for it because we had some fantastic project leads at those schools and the principals were great. So I won't labor the time.
Well, you took the wind out of our thunder because we, the elementary principals, wanted to make a statement this evening, Mr. Murphy and Dr. Murphy. On behalf of elementary principals, we want to express to you how much we appreciate it last Saturday. To see the outpouring of support from our community, from our parents, from our faculty and staff, spouses related to, or other significant people related, kids, even children that came out to help us at our schools. Saturday was just one of those days that for us was highly motivational. The task that we had identified for our community volunteers to help us with, those things would not have gotten finished before school started in any way, shape, or form because we just don't have the manpower to get it done. But even more important than those tasks that these volunteers did, to us, just seeing that outpouring of support from our community. I didn't make it to the breakfast, but I saw lots of pictures from Home Depot and the volume of people. And we had a lot of people at our school that didn't even go to the breakfast, that just showed up at the school. former students that came back, ex-parents, children, people who, dads who had children who went through our school prior years, high school kids that came back and said, I went to this school. So on behalf of the elementary principals, we just want to say thank you, because that was a really highly successful day, not just in the manual labor that was completed, but giving us, the principals, that firsthand view of support from our community and letting us know firsthand that that support is really strong in our community. And we don't see that and we don't hear that every day. Most of the time when we get lots of parents to the school, it's something that we sponsor, an open house or something, they're there to see the teacher. But a lot of times these were strangers. These were people that came from a church or came from the community, just walked in and said, really they were saying thank you. Thank you to us for what we were doing for our community. And that's our pep rally, us, the administrators, in terms of that motivation to make us want to get school started on a very positive note this year. So on behalf of the elementary principals and assistant principals and faculties and staff, we want to say thank you. That was a very, very positive day for us.
Well, what I wanted to do, I asked Dr. Murphy to come to the September board meeting as a parent of three, not as a board member, a father, parent of three, to recognize those team leads, those dads, those sponsors, our operation, and everyone at that meeting. I will solicit a list, and hopefully, we possibly need to utilize in September, either high school for the venue, because I've actually get asked for all close to 400 to show up. So that's the goal, and I don't want to steal the thunder at that point. I want to wait until that point get here. But Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, you name it, they did. Dan Fulton called my phone. How can he help? Fantastic day. And I won't labor long, but we'll look at that September. All right. Any more participation? All right. Next on our agenda, we have our regular board meeting minutes for July 13th, 2015. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed? Minutes have been approved. Personnel actions. Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Any questions, Dr. Murphy?
Board members, we're working diligently to make sure that when we submit the personnel report to you, that we do not tack any late personnel matters on, and we're working very hard toward that end, and I'm grateful to Human Resources and obviously to our principals and others who made recommendations to help us do that in a timely fashion and give you plenty of time to take a review of that personnel report.
Surely no one wait till the last minute.
Every now and then, just every now and then.
If there's no additional questions, do I have a motion to approve the personnel action report?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed? Personnel report has been approved. Next, you have before you our business actions, monthly financials, payroll, cash disbursements. Any questions from the board? Any questions, Dr. Murphy? If no questions, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Business actions have been approved. Next on our agenda is Mandarin Chinese textbook adoption. Any questions from the board?
I had a question in chapter 2, page 13. Something about that storyline I just didn't get.
Any questions from Dr. Murphy?
Beyond that, no.
Any questions from the public? Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion has been approved. Next on our agenda, resolution for Protect Education Trust Fund. Dr. Murphy, do you want to comment?
Yes, I would. I'd like to share the resolution, board members, with you, and certainly to do so publicly for disclosure to our public. Whereas the Alabama legislature is slated for a special session to begin today, August the 3rd, to address deficits of the general fund budget. And whereas the Alabama legislature may look to solve the general fund deficits by moving revenue from the education trust fund to the general fund. And whereas the Alabama legislature may look to decrease the general fund deficits by moving excess revenues from the education trust fund in fiscal year 2016 to the general fund. And whereas the Alabama legislature may look to solve the general fund deficits with a one budget approach by combining the education trust fund budget with the general fund budget. And whereas the Alabama legislators may look to move education's portion of the use tax, which is a growth tax, to the general fund under Senate Bill 6. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Hoover City Schools Board of Education oppose any effort to take money from the Education Trust Fund and oppose a one budget proposal, and believe that advocating against such serves the public purpose and furthers the vision and the mission of our school district by seeking to protect scarce resources which should be devoted to the education of our children. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be recorded in the minutes of the Hoover City Board of Education to be archived in perpetuity, done this third day of August 2015. I would ask your approval of this resolution, please.
Motion to approve the resolution by the superintendent.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Resolution has been approved.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
could I say a couple of things, but y'all are gonna get tired of me? When the Alabama Accountability Act was passed, $30 million left the Education Trust Fund. Whether you like that act or not, that's what happened. It went from 25 to $30 million. They're going to get to the Education Trust Fund. If you all don't say your thoughts and let them know, and you have the power, Hoover Parent-Teacher Council, every one of you can contact your legislator. And I'm not asking you what your opinion is. Jason Gasson's got a copy of this. Here's the contacts of every legislator that's in our district, and of course you can reach the governor. Let them know what you think. They are going to get the money. And when they start diverting the money, like Dr. Murphy said, you're not going to get it back. Worst case scenario, the prison situation is very serious. If the federal government comes forward and condemns our general fund to go after prison reform or whatever it may be, then our trust fund is very, very vulnerable. So no matter how many times they tell you we have plenty of money, just ask the teachers that haven't gotten a raise recently and see what they say. Please use your power, whether it be at the polls. We don't necessarily have to have incumbents going back in every time. I intend to let them hear from me individually. I hope you'll do the same thing. One other thing, I hope you'll keep up with the lawsuit that's in Judge Graffio's court right now about the 1% tax that was taken away from the schools in Jefferson County. There is a suit. I've got a copy here if you want to see it. That's possible Judge Graffio throws that out. If he does, we're back to square one, and we've got over $1 billion back in Jefferson County back for the children. Mr. Fulton, I hope you'll be vocal about this also. Sorry to take so long.
No, that's perfectly fine. Next on the agenda is a proposal to rescind fee-based transportation program.
Yes,
Dr.
thank you.
Murphy?
Board members, I would like to recommend no fees be charged for student transportation services for our students to ride school buses to and from school, which will in essence result in rescinding the April 17, 2014 fee-based transportation proposal, which was approved by our board.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? May I get a motion to rescind the fee-based transportation program?
Motion to rescind consideration of fee-based transportation in district and school system.
May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion has been approved. Next on our agenda is obsolete items. Any questions from the board? Dr. Kathy? From the public? Any motion for approval?
So moved.
I get a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion has been approved. Last action item, educational service contracts. Any comments on that, Dr. Murphy?
We have a number of educational service contracts for your review, and a number of those are to serve our students with special needs, and Dr. Barbara Mayer is here should we have any questions.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? No questions? May I get a motion to accept our educational service contract?
So moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion has been approved. Next, we're in our informational report. Ron Dodson, Dr. Ron Dodson.
Did want to let you know, I presented to you back in February, gave you an update on the ACT Aspire scores and everything going forward, and one of the problems we had last year was not getting those scores until October, late September, early October. We have received those scores this summer, seeing some good signs of progress, increasing overall 5% in math, 3% in reading, grades 3A. But the most important thing is we have those individual student score reports at the start of school. So what that's going to mean to teachers to have that information as they start school and know where the kids are, and to be able to get that information back to parents at the beginning of school as opposed to halfway through the school year, I think it's going to make a tremendous difference this year. So I wanted to give you that. We'll give you more information later and put that in the scope of everything else that we're trying to accomplish. So thank you.
Next on our agenda, a presentation by the Hoover City School Foundation.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to present tonight on behalf of the Hoover City Schools Foundation. I'm Janet Turner, and we'd like to talk for just a few minutes to tell you a little bit about our foundation and introduce a new initiative we've developed to help us reach new stakeholders for support. A few foundation members, board members are here tonight, and I'd just like to ask them to stand and be recognized. Our board, if you could stand, foundation board members. Our board consists of parents, alumni, local business people, and civic-minded individuals who want to serve our school system. Thank you. Recently, after serving on the Foundation's board for 3 years, I was asked to serve as its executive director to lead the board in its new initiatives, because we all recognize that our schools are being asked to do more with less, and we want to be better positioned to meet the school's needs going forward. As you know, schools in America are facing increasing demands and diminishing resources. Education foundations like ours exist mainly to provide for what a school district cannot provide due to limited federal and state funds. The Hoover City Schools Foundation's mission and vision is to support the schools by funding enhanced academics to better prepare students and teachers for the future. I've found that even though the Hoover City Schools Foundation has been around for almost 25 years, many people don't know who we are or what we do. Those that do know us probably know us as the organization that gives grants to teachers, and that's true. We actually funded the first iPad initiative, which eventually led the school system to provide devices to all students. Our current grants program focuses mostly on STEM-related projects, offering grants of up to $2,000 to teachers who have innovative ideas. Each year, we gift approximately $30,000 in grants and scholarships to Hoover City School teachers and students. We need to improve our ability to continue to support our schools, and we've developed an initiative to raise public awareness regarding that need. It will also allow us to reach other stakeholders for additional support. Hoover City Schools Foundation is the only organization outside the school system that serves all 17 schools. We don't do that just by providing money. In fact, you really can't quantify what we do in terms of money. We do a lot behind the scenes to connect businesses with students and faculty. We've established Academy Breakfast to connect our high school academies with leaders in the industries. And this past spring, we facilitated a connection between our Health Services Academy and UAB, which has led to our patient care technician students finding jobs at the hospital straight from high school. The foundation board members and I have been meeting with principals, teachers, business leaders, city leaders, and others to tell them about our foundation and let them know that our vision and our goals are growing. The foundation wants to provide more support to our schools and our system as our system grows and education funds are limited. The information you've seen regarding the Hoover Ready initiative is the next step in our goal of increasing our brand awareness. which helps us get more stakeholders involved. Based on the feedback we've received so far, Hoover Ready is well received and the timing is right. Some of you have seen Hoover Ready, perhaps in an earlier version, but I want to be clear that our mission and our goals are completely different. It's simple. The foundation was attracted to Hoover Ready because it provides us with a platform that will allow us to reach out to new stakeholders for support. We'll be able to reach new corporate sponsors, our more than 20,000 alumni, the 75% of Hoover residents who don't have kids in our school system, and outside grant-giving foundations. This is a platform that will allow us to reach non-traditional resources and will have an ancillary benefit of promoting the school system's successes. No matter when a student enters our school system, our teachers prepare them for the world. When they graduate, they will be Hoover Ready. I'd like to introduce David Cohen, a local business owner and parent of two at Hoover High, who's the Foundation's Marketing and Events Committee Chair. David will briefly highlight the Hoover Ready initiative, and then we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Good evening. We opened the Whole Scoop business 4.5 years ago, and in that time we forged a great reputation within our community. We've employed over 20 high school students in that time, and part of our role is to grow them into successful members of our community. We are approached each week by a multitude of people asking for our financial and community support. As a business owner, we decide where we want to put our energies, which charities, which school programs that we're going to be aligned with. As a local businessman, I know it's all about the relationships that we have in the community. Through these relationships, we foster a stronger reputation in our community. The purpose of this project is to further utilize the Foundation's relationships in the Hoover community and beyond, to re-engage our 20,000 or so Hoover Spain Park alumni and work with the Hoover businesses, to be a conduit to connect our schools with those that can help meet their needs. The information that we've given you begins to tell a story, and that story is about who our students are, their demographics, when they enter our district, the overall growth of our district, and their test scores. Who our teachers are, their tenure, their certifications, their graduate degrees, their accomplishments. The level of readiness that our students have when they enter college and how they succeed in higher education. The skills that our students have when they enter the real workforce. This is an authentic story of the Hoover City Schools. We want to champion Hoover City Schools' achievements to the community. The Hoover Ready initiative will incorporate news media, social media, and community connections. After reviewing the Hoover Ready initiative with Dr. Murphy, we would like to launch this in mid-September. The Hoover Ready initiative is a method for us to approach our community, the alumni and the business sector, to discuss the Foundation's goals to foster new relationships and solidify existing relationships. The stakeholders included in the community, with the 75% of our residents not having children in our schools, this group offers great opportunity for support. Our high school alumni, once again, are a group that can give back to the schools that gave them the education that has gotten them to where they are now. And our business community that can connect with students in those fields of study that match up with their industry. The Hoover Ready initiative is an initiative that will set the school district apart, educate the general populace, and kickstart a media presence to help promote and foster relationships. We're excited about Hoover Ready and invite your questions.
Any questions from the board?
Jen, how are you guys gonna kick it off? I mean, it's a great concept, it's got powerful information, it is factual, it is differentiated between us and everybody else, we have our own identity.
Right, we plan to kick it off in mid-September. We'll be working with Dr. Murphy and the administration between now and then to finalize what you've seen is only in the draft presentation. And then we're gonna kick it off with media presence, traditional media, followed by social media, and old school knocking on doors.
I have a question. Is Jason Gaston, our Southeast Regional Vice President, National School Public Relations Association, is he involved?
He will be, yes. We've talked to Dr. Murphy, and we have begun the process. We've met with Jason, and now we're beginning the process so that he's involved and that the infographics line up with the Hoover schools.
Okay. When you say he will be, so he was not
We've met
involved
with
in
him.
the beginning of this?
Well, the information that's been presented to you so far is a draft and was gathered from publicly available information and meetings with school officials, and now we have begun meeting, we've met with Jason and we're working with him forward.
Okay, how about like the graphics and the work, who's involved in doing that?
We hired an outside consultant to help us with that.
Okay, and who is an outside consultant?
Foster Marley,
And who is going to be paying Mr. Marley?
the foundation.
So there's no monies that's been requested of the Hoover
That's
City
correct.
Schools or the board?
That's correct. Yes. Any questions? We appreciate y'all's time.
Any additional questions from the board?
No, I would like to say, I appreciate you clearing up the foundation, because I hate to say it, but up until about a year ago, I wasn't sure of the separation. This is not tax money that they have here. This is basically donations from the community, from the business owners. So I don't want to use the word charity, it's just giving from the community back to our school system and complementing the district. So, thank you.
For me, it's just basically telling a story that's at least seldom told, if at all, because it's a great story. It's a powerful story.
It is a promise, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I go ahead? I was just gonna say, and I think, they basically answered it from the funding, from just donations. I was gonna ask them what their sources of funding, what kind of budget they had, and what kind of increase this promotion or kickoff that they're doing, what they're looking at, what they're maybe expecting.
Mrs. Hall?
So our foundation is funded by an endowment, and that's Turner. That's all right, and that's what provides for our grants, and then fundraising efforts provide for our operating budget.
What kind of budget do you guys have now?
It really depends on our fundraising efforts year to year. So
500,000?
um,
Million? 100,000? 50,000?
That's smaller, yes.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Well, from the retired teachers, a lot of the teachers tell me of how much the various foundations, various school systems, Trustville and so forth, have accomplished. And so there's a lot of potential in the foundations. And some of the other communities, I know Dr. Murphy is familiar with this, it's very, very important where you have very limited resources in some of these rural communities. So the foundation makes a significant contribution. And I have found that you have a tab on the Facebook of the Hoover Foundation, so anyone can make a donation, and it does work. I tried it. So everyone might think about going ahead and making, even if it's $5 donation tonight on the Facebook page. Now on the website page, for some reason, it is not working. So I hope maybe that's
part of what we're working on now.
right. But the Facebook does work, doesn't it? It does work. Right, it does work. So I encourage everyone to try it out this evening.
Thank you. Any new business? If no new business,
I just have a question now, and I'm probably out of order. And I did not get a letter, so I'm going to have to borrow the letter from Adam. When do we consider the childhood cancer for Autumn Foundation, if that's a possibility? Does she?
will that require action, or is that an operational?
I don't think it requires our board's action. I think it's certainly a worthy project, and would be willing to meet with Autumn and see how we might support that. At the pleasure of the board. I don't think it requires your vote, but I certainly am interested in the pleasure of the board.
Good. I've got my
If
support.
it's an operational aspect, let's keep it that. Thank you so much.
It is, yeah. I think that's
Each
great.
bring that up.
Mr. Battles, can we get an update, please, sir, on the new awning at Trace Crossings, as well as the new sidewalk at Spain Park?
Well, the sidewalk, Friday, I think when we looked at it, they were well on their way to getting it close. And I think, it comes from the stool all the way around, and they were pouring the section, after you turn off the main street, they're going up the barrier. And And so it should be finished, hopefully before school starts. But it's well on its way, and the awning should be complete, new fence up. We've got a little asphalt patching to do, but it's, you know, as I stated earlier, it's coming along in another project, but there's nothing that should deter it from being fully functional when school starts.
I had the opportunity to ride by there Sunday, and Ms. Barber, are you still here?
Yes.
Ms. Barber, and thank you for working with Mr. Battles on that. That back entrance looks really nice. It looks really good. Thank you.
Any additional new business? If there's no new business, we will transfer to the superintendent reports.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to just share a few bulleted items with you, board members. First of all, I would like to share the federal and some state fund allocations. As you have included in your packet, the Title I allocation that we have for our school district is $1,081,782. In our Title II funds, our Title II money's predominantly used to support our professional development, improving teacher quality. From this federal source, we have $144,990. From our Title III funds, Title III is language instruction for our limited English proficient students, also any immigrant students. The Title III allocation is $97,134. And then as a state support to our students who have limited English or have English as a second language, perhaps I should say, we get another, from the state, $43,621 to support those students. We will be getting some at-risk funds to support our school district, and that total amount is $169,311. I just simply wanted you to be aware of some of the federal funds that will be coming our way. Dr. Deborah Scott heads up our federal programs piece of the work, and we will have federal funds meetings to have conversations about this money, best use of this money, best ways to support. As you might well imagine, much of our federal funding will be used to support some personnel, to support our students who are struggling with learning. So we will follow guidelines as to how we should meet and converse and discuss our federal funding, and then come back to our board and share with you either in front of or as a part of our budget hearing information specific to the use of our federal funds. So if you have questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those, or I'll pitch it over to Dr. Smith, who's in our audience.
And our budget hearings are in September, and they're required to have 2.
Yes.
A good reference point is, how do these funds compare to last year's?
And Kathy, I believe, provided me that. Do you have
I
that?
do.
Thank you.
Title I was one included. Title I, our actual funding for this year is down by $142,000. It's significantly reduced. It's almost a 12% reduction. Our Title II funding, which is improving teacher quality, one that focuses on professional development, it's down a little over 2%. That's $3,300, but that's one professional development activity for a teacher. Limited English proficiency, which is Title III, is down $36,000, or about 27% of the prior year funding levels. Our at-risk dollars, which are from the state, are up slightly, about $8,000. There's also some additional funding that might be available through similar to the old High Hopes, if you remember that from several years past. It looks like it may be a competitive grant, and we're just trying to build our way around what that's going to look like. But I don't believe at this point that's something we will know at the time of the initial budget hearing, and it may be something that evolves over the first few months as we get into the fiscal year, and we would address an amendment. And I believe that's all that you have on your list.
Well, it's an important thing to note, because, you know, in the situation now with unitary status coming down the pipe, the emphasis on making sure we close the achievement gap for struggling learners. And all of a sudden, once again, you know, as was noted here with the state, Mr. Kelly, we're getting reduced resources. Higher expectations, higher needs, lower resources. So you know, to keep what you've got, those resources have gotta come out of somewhere else, that's all I'm saying. And if you're gonna try to at least keep status quo, it's a challenge.
Kathy, this may be a question for Dr. Smith. Title I, the funds down because we don't have the need from the student side, or is it because the feds are
It's just
giving
how
us?
the allocations work out. It's based on the allocations from the State Department. The money comes to the State Department. The State Department, they allocates those available funds across the total need of the district.
The overall pool less.
Pool, yes, and then it's allocated.
Is that a per student or per capita funding mechanism?
Dr. Smith may know more about how that's specific.
state?
I think it's the number of, I'm not I think it's based on your
Part of that
needs level.
formula does look
I
at
think there's a
students
free
and
and
looks at
reduced.
at-risk and struggling students. Dr. Smith?
Mr. Cooper, would you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, if the money comes from the federal government to the state allocates the money to the school districts, what criteria is used to make that allocation? Is it, per?
Free and reduced
Free and
lunch
reduced,
status.
primarily. So it would go against the pool of the state based on.
Yeah, the reason I was asking the question is, you know, just a lot of the state funding on average daily membership. When you have flat growth like we did last year, it's gonna come hit us because we're not gonna get as much this year as we had last year, because the previous year we had some student growth. It's stacks up.
Any additional questions?
So I think this is just step one of sharing with you the amounts of money. Step two will be us coming back to the table to share with you wise use of these funds. Item B, Superintendent's Advisory Council. We have a wonderful problem. We have 641 folks who want to serve on the Superintendent's Advisory Council. Isn't that pretty cool? That's a great problem to have. So now there's the management of what that should look like. So I'm very excited that there is an interest in our community for people to talk and to share and to interact. And I take that as a wonderful problem. We may have to get the BJCC and hold a meeting. So just a couple of preliminary thoughts. We may have to take our schools who've identified folks who want to serve on the advisory council, and we may have to almost create an in-house advisory council of our folks, then maybe a community advisory group. We may have to take a look at the different issues, because there may be those individuals who want to address certain issues with us. Let's say they're really particularly interested in rezoning. And so when that particular subject is scheduled, perhaps, then those interested persons could come to talk to us about rezoning. Perhaps others would be not interested in that, but there would be some other agenda item for which they would like an audience. So, great problem. And how we go about structuring this so that we can allow our folks to be at the table with us is an interesting dilemma, but I'm happy to try to find a solution for that. So,
Dr. Murphy, I hate to break this to you, but when the time comes that we do bring up rezoning, everybody will be interested in talking to you about that.
I'm sure. So that kind of gives us the segue into moving right into a conversation about unitary status, and Mr. Sweeney is with us, and I want to acknowledge Mr. Sweeney, who spent some time with me to get me in this loop in terms of unitary status. Mr. Sweeney was in a meeting along with our assistant superintendents on July the 22nd when the Department of Justice came to visit with us, and I just wanted to give you just a brief synopsis of some of the discussion items. I've shared this with you, but just to reiterate that. During that meeting, we had conversations about the Berry property. We talked about a timeline for meeting Judge Halika's expectations of our school district. We talked about the various green factors, and there are 5 or 6 if you separate the teachers, certificated personnel from staff. There's 6, otherwise 5 green factors. We talked about those green factors. We talked about fee-based transportation, which thank you board members for taking that off the table for us. One of the conversations regarding the fee-based transportation is that it was going to be very difficult for us to get unitary status in the area of transportation with us looking at a fee base. And that was true of some hesitation on the part of the Department of Justice, and was also a hesitation, a big hesitation, as I understand it, from the Legal Defense Fund. And so that matter is off the table for us, and I am hopeful that we will be able to achieve unitary status, at least partial unitary status, knowing that there are a couple of biggies waiting in front of us. The two that might create more time for us, Mr. Presley, is going to be the rezoning piece, and also looking at personnel, and looking at the composition of our personnel and how that compares to the composition of our student population. Mr. Sweeney, if I'm thinking correctly, I think those are going to be the two that's going to cost us the most time and energy.
I think that's accurate.
We had a good bit of conversation about using a GIS layout system. I'm pleased to share with the board that the Department of Justice is actually providing for us at our taxpayer dime a person, Matt Cropper, who's working with us to look at the GIS layout of our school district for any rezoning purposes. They also spoke to us about a one boundary concept, so that when we have a pocket of students in a community, that individuals in that community aren't being lifted out of that pocket and an enclave and going out and being transported outside of that district to another school. We do have some enclaves or some pockets where that is true, and they spoke to us, and actually spoke to us in terms of that being a monetary savings to us, where we're not moving children out of a neighborhood school and transporting them some distance out. So the GIS system will be very beneficial in helping us with that. We are going to develop a web page specific to rezoning. Already talked to Jason so that we can keep our public posted on the whole rezoning process, where we are, and any feedback that we might, that you all might want to share with us. So lastly, the extracurricular piece, which is one of the green factors, we have already shipped out and did the same week, Mr. Sweeney, or maybe immediately the week after. We've sent out all of our yearbooks for the last 2 years to the Department of Justice. They'll be reviewing those yearbooks to look at us in terms of the extracurricular activity offerings that we have and the composition of the students who are parts of those clubs and organizations. So I'm certainly hoping in part, Mr. Sweeney, that we're going to be able to achieve some unitary status in part, partial, but we are aware that there are a couple of areas that's going to require a lot of time, effort, energy on our part, and frankly, I'll go ahead and predict a little controversy to be stirred as we look at the best practice for how we rezone. So just that update on Department of Justice and unitary status. Thoughts or questions there?
Dr. Murphy, thank you for creating the Superintendent Advisory Council, and also being transparent about this process. This is something that's going to affect us when it's implemented, and it's something that will affect us years to come. So it's very important to be inclusive about a process that affect not only our teachers, but parents, businesses, and the whole 9 yards. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Murphy, if you'd indulge just a further comment. Dr. Murphy is such a quick study.
Yep.
And drawing upon her experience in this area and the fact that she knows how important this is to the community, when she came to the table with the Department of Justice, she was able to dialogue with them in a very respectful, intelligent manner that I think was very helpful to create a positive dialogue with the Justice Department. And I think what Dr. Murphy was so impressive is that what she has tried to do is master the data, reserve comment on some of these really important issues until she gets further input from all of the affected people. But she knows the data, and that's a massive amount of information, and she spent a lot of time doing that and really got us off on an awfully good footing with the way she was able to exchange. And I further appreciate, Mr. Murphy, you coming taking the time to welcome the Justice Department, thanking the Department of Justice representative for their cooperative manner in working with us. And that made a really nice impression that we're not adversary. We've got major challenges. What they want and what the community want will have to be worked out. But your overture was real important to the process as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you.
Thanks for your hard work on this process as well.
Board policies and procedures, two things I'd like to share with you. We are actually looking at our board's policies and our procedures, procedurally how we're doing things. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting today to talk procedurally about some matters as it relates to central office level. So we're taking a review of those, not because there's anything wrong with what we're doing or how we've done it, but just to, one, get me in the loop of understanding the process, and then looking to see if there are better ways for us to do our work. So each department head has been challenged to look at the particular part of the board's policy under which they would have some jurisdiction. For example, the section on curriculum, Ron Dotson's taking a look at it. Student section, Melody Green's looking at that. Personnel, Maryville looking at that. So each of the people in our building are looking at that section of the policy and having conversations with their folks. Certainly we'll get other feedback, but we're just wanting to make sure that we have a good, clean policy manual, that it's updated. Which brings me to the policy pipeline, and I think you all have a hard copy of this. As you're aware, the Alabama School Board Association annually does what's called Policy Pipeline. And as you know, Policy Pipeline is basically an opportunity for us to have the policies that came out of the legislative session last, which would have been in the spring. Any legislation that would impact us as a school board, the School Board Association has looked at that act or that law now and has developed for us proposed language to help us meet those expectations of law. And so the policy pipeline is here and available to us. Ron Dotson and I sat Thursday and went through the webinar. As you're aware, there was an Aaron's Law that was passed this legislative session. There was some additional information on nepotism, charter schools, open meetings, on and on. And so what you have here in front of you is the policy pipeline with proposed language. I will get with AEA and allow input from our AEA UniServe director and from any others who want to look at these policies with us, but it is the law. And so the language has been vetted with attorneys, and as we pay our membership dues to AASB, this is a good turnaround for us to have this support with our policy manual. What you can expect soon is that we will come to you with proposed policies specific to all those legislative pieces that came out of the session. And in great part, it'll look very much like what you have in front of you as far as barring language. Job descriptions, we are also taking a review of our job descriptions, and Mr. Sweeney has given us some input as to what our job description template should look like so that we have that consistency and that the critical parts of job descriptions are there, and we already pretty much are following that template and format. But it's important for us to just come back and to be revisiting our job descriptions and cleaning those up should those need to be cleaned up, and just making sure that all of our employees have a job description and that it's very clear what our expectations are for each of us as we engage in our work. So that's also happening at our central office level, and will involve others such as our principals and looking at job descriptions for principals and assistant principals. So again, we'll come to the table with any edits or language that we want you to review and to approve there. 2015-16 salary schedules, we have provided that information for you. It's not an actionable item this evening, but what I'd like to ask you to do is to look at those 2015-16, the salary schedule. Any conversations that we might need to have individually, I'll be glad for us to do that. And then to bring that back to the table to us in September for your conversations publicly, and for a vote on our salary schedules at the September board meeting. And then lastly, regarding charter schools, I must admit I allowed this to get off my radar screen and appreciate, Mr. Kelly, you're reminding me about charter schools. I guess I've been in a bit of a whirlwind, but there's an expectation that by September 1, our school district will make a decision to be a charter school authorizer or pass on being a charter school authorizer. And there are advantages and there are disadvantages, regardless of the decision we should choose. And I think it might be very important for us as a board, and I have given you a handout that came from the Office of General Counsel from the State Department of Education. It was a part of School Superintendent's Summer Conference. I provided you with that PowerPoint, and in the PowerPoint you'll find some of the advantages, pros, cons to the process of being an authorizer. I would ask that you take a read of this, and would ask if we might have a work session soon, as September 1 will happen before our next regularly scheduled board meeting, that maybe we should come to the table, take a quick review of what are the pros and cons, and make a decision as to whether we want to be an authorizer or not.
Well, since that time is approaching, and I would hope that everyone has their calendar on them, let's look at developing a time now, so we can give that to Dr. Murphy. We have roughly, not including this week, 3 weeks to look at. Week of the 10th, 17th, and 24th. Everyone that wants to take this week and the next week to kind of sink in and study as much as you can, and come back the 17th and 21st and have a work session geared towards that, or that week after. Preferably sometime after 5:30, or would it be better served sometime 7:30 in the morning?
I'm good on the 17th or 24th, whatever
Okay.
kind of day you want.
There's an ASB District 5 meeting on the 17th.
Okay, so that will mean that the 18th works. Board members, that morning, that evening,
I would need to do it late in the evening, like at a 6 o'clock time.
okay?
It's like I have.
The 6 o'clock work for everyone on the 18th.
Yep, for me,
President? Yes. Okay, you have a date, Dr. Murphy, August 18th, that's on a Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Thank you. And that concludes Superintendent's report.
All right, next item, there's a note, next board meeting date is that correct? No, well, I'm going backwards. Our Hoover City Schools 2015-16 Institute will be held August 10th at Hunter Street Baptist Church at 8:30. Also, our next scheduled board meeting is on the 14th at 5:30.
And board members, we do need to have 2 budget hearings.
Okay?
And we would have the last on, during perhaps a work session prior to the September 14 board meeting, if that works for you. But we also need a second date. Would September the 10th work?
Let me make a correction here. It's the 14th on our schedule, is the 17th. Hold on, I'm looking at August.
Yes.
It is the 14th.
September 14 board
okay.
meeting, we could put the last budget hearing with that September 14th meeting, but we would need one in front of that.
Okay. Do the board want to narrow down a date now, or would we like to wait until the 18th when we come back to have a better look at what our schedule will look like in September?
Put something down.
Okay, let's put something down now. What day works?
Now, are we still doing one on what day?
On the 18th, on the 18th, yeah, we still would to have our regular board meeting on that 14th.
The budget hearing before the board meeting?
We have to have one before the board meeting.
You can have one on the evening of, but we need one in front of that too, prior to that.
Yeah, I was looking at the week of September the 7th.
holiday week?
Yes, holiday week, and looks like there is Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, either Hoover or Spring Park is involved in football games. And then there's a parent open house on the 1st of September.
Or do we want to kill two birds with one stone and switch our charter school date and budget date on the same date, let's say August 25th, unless that's going to cause a problem?
I don't know if I have all the
You
information.
won't have all the information. Okay, well,
That's always a challenge.
let's do this. Let's wait to the 18th to develop that time. Is that fine, or?
We can certainly do one in the morning as well, if that makes it any easier. May not, but we can do one in the morning. And we just need a quorum there for that initial hearing, because there's 2 hearings.
There has been some concern that we do it when the public has, at least one of those hearings has the best opportunity to hear that.
Okay, so evening time will, I think will work out best for our public, and although everyone works here, so, again, let's, so we won't labor on time, let's decide on the 18th of August, when that date will be. All right?
One was at Spain Park last year, remember?
Yes, yes. All right, we're good to go? All right, if it's,
Did we get a date?
Uh,
I missed it.
no, we have not, we're gonna wait till the 18th.
Gotcha.
We have one on the 14th.
We have one on the 14th, that's the second one, the second final one, so we'll develop the next one on the 18th. All right, if there's no further comments, let's adjourn.